Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a Ukraine War News Update, second part thereof for the 14th of April 2025. We're going to start the military aid video with a subject that I've spoken an awful lot about, which is how much has the US really spent on aid to Ukraine. Of course, since Trump has become president, they've not added anything to the aid, the total aid that they have given to Ukraine. This is Adam Kinzinger, former Republican lawmaker, who is a staunch supporter of Ukraine. I'd love to see him in charge of the Republican Party these days, but alas, that's not going to happen. This is what he has to say about the aid situation.
According to Donald Trump, the U.S. has given over $350 billion to Ukraine for the war. But what's the truth? How much has actually been spent, and where has it gone? And what about Europe? Are they actually pulling their own weight? Well, let's set the record straight. The $350 billion figure is completely false. Not even the most creative think tanks support it. Even the Pentagon has outright rejected the claim. The truth, the U.S. has spent about $185 billion, half of what Trump claims. Of that, around $4 billion has gone to humanitarian aid. Roughly 40% of the remainder has helped Ukraine's government keep the country running. Things like paying soldiers, repairing infrastructure, keeping trains running, maintaining basic services. The rest? Weapons. But here's the kicker. Most of that money's actually been spent in the United States, paid to American factories and American workers to produce weapons, either for Ukraine or to replenish donated U.S. stockpiles. In fact, much of what we sent to Ukraine was nearing expiration and would have had to be destroyed at taxpayer expense. Instead, we're getting brand new weapons, equipment we would have needed anyway, even without the war. No doubt the U.S. has been generous, but what about Europe? Trump claims they're not doing much. Well, the truth? Europe, including the United Kingdom, has provided $250 billion to Ukraine, $60 billion more than the United States. That's 25% more. And frankly, they should be stepping up like they are. Now let's put this all into perspective. The U.S. spends around $900 billion per year on defense to stand up to Russia, China, other threats. In the past 3 years, we've spent about $2.5 trillion on defense. Let's compare that to the $185 billion over the same time period that we've spent helping Ukraine, a country that is actively fighting and defeating one of our biggest enemies. That's just 7% of our defense budget, and that seems like a pretty good deal to me.
And I think that's well said. Nothing that you haven't heard before from myself many, many times. But it's good to hear that really clearly set out there. Share that far and wide. Now we're hearing from Friedrich Merz concerning the Taurus. He's the incoming Chancellor for the Germans. I have always said that I would agree to supply Taurus missiles to Ukraine, but only in agreement with the European partners. Our European partners are already supplying cruise missiles. The British are doing it, the French are doing it, and the Americans are doing it anyway. Interesting to say the Americans are providing cruise missiles. We know that the JASSM was something that they were potentially going to provide, but I don't know if that's actually the case. Okay. Good news. It looks like Taurus will be provided. I'm sure that you won't get any untoward reaction from Britain and France, that's for sure. We are hearing in that CBS interview with Zelensky that when children and adults are killed by missiles, I do not understand why we cannot agree on additional Patriot systems. Zelensky said during his interview on 60 Minutes, they haven't received yet the Patriot missiles that they were supposed to have received. We do not have air defense systems. We do not have enough of these systems, he said. I'm grateful to all our partners for giving us these systems, but I want to let's have a look because I can't quite read that. I don't want to complain. We are grateful to the United States for giving us a lot of things. We are grateful for everything. I don't understand why we can't agree on additional Patriot systems, especially since there was such an agreement at the NATO summit in Washington at the anniversary summit, and we didn't receive those additional Patriot systems. And this is absolutely true. They're yet to receive what they were kind of pledged. I respect the choice of the USA, but when the United States has not given us such systems, he said, or has not sold them to us, we are ready for any format. The question is not about money. And some European partners are ready to help financially so that we can get these expensive systems. Really revealing this. But the United States say there is no possibility today, but at the same time, they transfer such systems to, for example, Israel. Good point. And I'm not saying that Israel doesn't need them and so on, but if we are fair partners, can't we find a way to protect Ukraine? And of course, they're not really fair partners, are they? Well, what are you asking the United States for? For air defense systems. We're not asking for anything else. We're asking for air defense systems, a package of new weapons that we need to protect ourselves, and we have handed it over to the United States. And it's interesting, Marco Rubio, I think it was, that confirmed that this would happen at the NATO summit. We have given this package to President Trump by phone and in various formats at various levels. We are ready to buy it. We are ready to buy to pay for this package, he says. We have discussed with European partners who are ready to finance packages with us. That is where they're at. It's like, look, we want to buy this stuff. Ukraine is ready to buy US Patriot air defense systems. Zelensky says earlier he stated Ukraine is prepared to purchase a full defense package from the US worth $30 to $50 billion. Why is it? He's asking, why is the US not doing this? It's not like we're not asking them to give it to us. We want to buy it from them. The Europeans are going to help us to do this. What is wrong? Why are you not wanting to do this? Interesting. Now, I find it... well, I guess this is all from previous pledges from the Biden administration, but Jeff 2146 has updated his documents with military aid, or documents about military aid, with 70 Rochelle Senator MRAP. So these are the Canadian-built MRAPs and delivered, 70 of them being delivered, but being paid for by the US, it seems there, and another 40 have been pledged. So I don't know where that's come from. Yeah, waiting for the realization that the US paid for these. So the US has paid for these, but yeah, I'm not quite sure. If pledged has just been added to this, then that looks like the US is pledging further aid subsequent to the Biden administration, but I don't have any further details about that. Right, Sweden has ordered 18 new Archer artillery systems, very capable self-propelled howitzers from BAE Systems Bofors for Ukraine. The systems will be part of an artillery package worth around $300 million, for which also includes 5 counter-battery radars and related funding. Those counter-battery radars will be super useful, of course, as well. Now, either this week or next, we will deliver 10,000 rounds of 155mm ammunition, said the Estonian Defence Minister Hanno Pevkur. He added that Estonia will deliver 750,000 rations packages for the Ukrainian soldiers as well. Lithuania has pledged 30 million euros in new military aid to Ukraine. 20 mil will go to the artillery shells initiative, 7 million for anti-drone rifles and short-range electronic warfare systems, and 3 million for demining coalition, set to train and equip 7 Ukrainian battalions. That's excellent news from Lithuania. But also, there's this. Lithuania, says Null reports, is boosting Ukraine's long-range capabilities. Foreign Minister Rustem Umerov, actually Defence Minister, says Lithuania has allocated 10 million euros for the production of Ukrainian long-range weapons already in use on the battlefield. Another 10 million tranche is on the way. So that looks separate to that other declaration we've just heard, and that's for long-range weapon production for the Ukrainians. The Prague City Hall will transfer, this is Czechia, to the armed forces of Ukraine cars from scrapyards that no one has taken. The cars will be converted into ambulances or buggies. 6 cars and 2 minibuses are currently being prepared. So it's great. Obviously, there's some outfit in Czechia that's taking scrapped vehicles that no one's claimed, nothing's going to happen with them, and doing them up and sending them to Ukraine. Sounds brilliant to me. Well done. Crying out for joint European action, says Shashank Joshi. Quote, there are currently, and this is from the Wall Street Journal, around 1,000 OneWeb terminals in Ukraine. So this is an alternative to Starlink. They are bulkier than Starlink's slim dishes and costlier. The starting price for Starlink's user terminals is less than $400. OneWeb starts at $3,200. Wow, so a really big difference in the cost of these alternatives. Meanwhile, the EU and France are hoping Eutelsat can get more satellites in for its OneWeb service into space quickly. Bernanke says that the company needs 4 billion euros, or about $4.5 billion, to renew and expand its satellite fleet. Some additional info on the subject. Ukrainian company Stepman has signed an agreement. Well, actually, we're going to look at that now. So Ukrainian company Stepman has signed an agreement with Swedish company Recutech for the licensed production of satellite terminals for the OneWeb and Intelsat platforms. So it looks like there could be an option outside of Starlink, but it is bulkier and more costlier at the moment. It needs that huge investment, doesn't it? Right, moving on. Talks with the Coalition of the Willing to support Ukraine have collapsed, as I've mentioned before. That's according to EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas. Despite 200 military experts from 30 countries working on a strategy on Ukraine's sky, sea and land, disagreements have stalled a joint plan, which is a real shame. Yeah, but as everything the Telegraph says about the EU should be taken with a pinch of salt. It does seem like there is still movement there with regard to a smaller contingent of countries, as I said yesterday. France, UK. We're hearing of other nations possibly coming on board here. We have the Netherlands is considering the possibility of deploying a contingent in Ukraine after the ceasefire, according to the Dutch Defence Minister Brekkelmans. So, there are options there. Japan is working towards joining NATO security assistance and training for Ukraine, NSATU, or NSATU command in Germany. The move would reportedly have Japan take a more involved role in training Ukrainian forces, potentially sending troops to Europe to do so. So that's really good to have them on board and helping. Norway pledges 10 billion Norwegian kroner, about $920 million in 2025 to train and equip a Ukrainian brigade, working with Nordic and Baltic partners under Ukrainian request. The aid includes ammo, gear and training tailored building blocks to reinforce existing brigades. Really good news there. So that's being reported in a number of places, and it includes that ammunition, gear and training. So good news from Norway there. Now we're going to go to Ukraine themselves. What are they doing? There's a whole section here. There's a lot going on. Ukraine has proposed hosting the next Ramstein format defense meeting on its own soil, according to their defense minister. Quote, "This would allow partners to meet our forces and defense industry firsthand," he said, calling it a step forward toward deeper cooperation. Hugely important that would be if that happened in Ukraine. In 2023, the Ukrainian defense industry increased the production of armored vehicles 10 times, and in 2024 by another 3 times. So that would be 30 times from the original point, I would presume. The production of domestic BTR-4 armored personnel carriers and the latest Varta 2 armored vehicles continues, and that seems to be, I think that's a Varta 2 there, with quite a substantial turret on top. Now, domestic missile production has increased 8-fold in 2024, according to a Ukrainian minister. Ukraine has also more than doubled its production of long-range drones in 2024 compared to the previous year, which is a 22-fold increase compared to 2022. There's an awful lot of scaled-up production going on as the Ukrainians are busily going about their business of manufacturing weapons. We wonder what the parallel is in Russia, whether they are able to ramp up production as effectively. The Kyiv is to expand production of Shahid targeting interceptors. I talked about this as well. Targeting interceptor drones after successful testing. Ukraine has developed several interceptors and tested one of them in Kyiv Oblast over the past month, a minister has said. So that's going to be taking place. Now, a bit of a correction here potentially, although it is interesting that it's being repeated by a number of different sources, some of them more reputable. No reports is usually pretty good. So what's the correction? Well, first of all, the claim was this laser Trizub system complex, laser complex of the Ukrainians can destroy drones, aerial bombs, cruise and ballistic missiles at a distance of up to 3,000 meters. And helicopters, airplanes, and reconnaissance drones at a distance of up to 5,000 meters. Okay, wow. So that's a pretty big call there. For the first time, Ukraine's unmanned systems forces have unveiled its new laser weapon, the Trizub. It can destroy, as mentioned, drones, bombs, and missiles up to 3,000, aircraft and helicopter recon drones up to 5,000 meters. And there's a video of this thing doing its stuff. You can see it in sort of in action there, and indeed that one I think that's a Shahed there. It's supposed to have been taken out by one of these laser complexes. Now, Trizub is not just a laser, it's a funeral for Muscovity's drone circus. Well, let's hope it acts as that. Well, Thierry then said about the Ukrainian laser system copy of YouTube, the laser you showed in News 1 is unable to take out anything else but drones. Now, I was wondering about this because ballistic missiles travel insanely fast, and jets as well. I can't imagine you're going to hit a jet with a laser like this. Not easily. But then again, I don't know. Who knows? Well, Thierry says it will be unable to hit anything other than drones. What Nexter wrote, because I originally talked about it on Nexter, but there you've got it from Null Reports and Max24, and it does seem to be claimed. It's claimed on the video here. So if you look at the claims here, now it's whether this video is from Nexter, I don't know, but the YouTube video does have these claims on there. What Nexter wrote, amplified by all others, is total BS. Perhaps, if very well positioned, it can take out a subsonic cruise missile, but not a glide bomb whose skin is too thick to be cut with a 10 kilowatt laser, not even automatically enslaved to a targeting laser. A ballistic missile comes down at Mach 10 minimum. That's 10 times the speed of sound, so at least 3,300 meters per second. If the system can hit at 3,000 meters, that gives a targeting and firing in less than 0.7 seconds on a missile that is covered with ceramics to not burn in the atmosphere at the speed it travels. Full BS. So he says, don't spread such info. But of course, that info is coming from fairly reputable sources. But I'm inclined to believe Thierry, because when I was reading that at the time, I was thinking, you're not taking out a ballistic missile with that. I mean, maybe you can cause some issue to helicopters, but I don't even think guided glide bombs is going to be particularly easy. I think drones and at the most helicopters, maybe a subsonic cruise missile if you do well on it. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. There is another claim, and this looks like a very similar video out here. It's got the same typeface on the same font on the video. The SBS, which isn't like as weird, understand it in the UK, SBS is Special Boat Services. I think this is actually the transliteration of the unmanned vehicles forces, so the kind of drone forces, showed an Alligator 9 naval anti-ship drone. This drone is a platform for various weapons, in particular the Trident laser complex. In addition, the naval drone can be used as a carrier for 6 to 10 smaller Alligator 5 TOD strike drones or 3 to 5 Alligator 5 electronic warfare drones. Let's have a look at it on this video, translated by War Translated here, Dimitri there. So let's listen to or watch this short video here, 26 seconds, and it looks very, very modern, doesn't it? That's the Alligator 9, very futuristic maritime anti-ship complex, and I guess that's going to make it resistant to radar spotting and whatnot. It involves the use of one control boat with a Trident 90 combat laser. So here we have another laser machine from 6 to 10 boats. The Alligator 5 TOD boats. I don't know what TOD stands for. Kamikaze torpedo. 3 to 5 Alligator 5 electronic warfare boats. Breakthrough support group. I'm just going to read that. It flashes too quickly. Intelligence, electronic warfare, electronic intelligence, electronic warfare, mine clearance, and navigation support. So I presume it can release these other boats. I'm wondering whether when it says TOD boats, I'm thinking, so from 6 to 10 boats, the Alligator 5 TOD kamikaze torpedo, I think it can shoot off 5 torpedoes that might end up being sort of drone torpedoes, a bit like we get drone missiles, rather than the torpedo, the traditional torpedo you shoot out of a submarine would, go in a straight line, and then you can get like homing in torpedoes, and I don't know, but it doesn't look like it's going to release other boats there, does it? But it might be able to release aerial drones out the top. But anyway, that's a new development for the Ukrainians there. And the Ukraine can now independently produce Franken-SAM air defense systems. Kyiv has received the technical documentation, is fully capable of implementing the project of its own, said Presidential Advisor Alexander Kamyshin. He's the guy with the top knot. Now, the Franken-SAMs, we've seen a book launcher be able to fire RIM 7, are they? The ship-loaded anti-aircraft missiles. They've been put; those missiles have been put in the old book book air defense systems, and that's one of the I think more common Franken-SAM systems. But I don't know whether they're producing some of their own now without the help of foreign aid. They're just getting on and doing some of these things. Good news there. And then there's this. Ukraine is working on developing its own strategic air defense system. So I think that's something completely separate from, say, Franken-SAM, and is offering European partners to invest in it to speed up its implementation. Of course, they need something like a Patriot. And if they're waiting as long as they are for Patriot systems to come their way, either through military aid or from buying them from the US, they might be waiting a long time, as we've already heard. So they need to get on and build their own stuff. It'd be great if SAMP-T NG, the new SAMP-T that's capable of taking down ballistic missiles, can be brought online, and it'd be great if a bunch of those could find their way from Eurosam to Ukraine. Finally, we have just a little thing on Russia here. North Korea plans to send thousands of short-range ballistic missiles 500 kilometers to 1,000 kilometers to Russia, says U.S. Indo-Pacific Command Commander. So the Americans themselves claiming that North Korea are going to send thousands of these ballistic missiles to Ukraine. To Russia. Imagine if Russia are able to send thousands of ballistic missiles over a few months into Ukraine. How much of a problem that will be. North Korea appear to be a better ally than anyone for Ukraine, sadly enough, at the moment. Anyway, that's enough from me. Hopefully that was of use. Take care, guys. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you so much for your support. And don't forget that there is the Car for Ukraine Easter Paisanki fundraiser that we're running with a bunch of other YouTubers. We are in 8th place at the moment. Please help us move up the leaderboard and help to donate to this really worthy cause. Car for Ukraine are fantastic, and if you check out the details, you can get yourselves different badges that they have. This is one of the 3 badges I have. They're really cool. I love these guys; they're awesome. So it'd be great if you can help support them, and therefore support the troops on the front line in Ukraine. Anyway, that's enough from me. Take care, guys. Speak soon.